In the Middle East, the airlines that typically make the biggest headlines are the region's big three airlines, the UAE duo of Emirates and Etihad, and Qatar Airways. The region's governments are making huge investments in current and new airlines, some of which have a long history of service. One of those airlines is Gulf Air, the national airline of the Kingdom of Bahrain. In addition to Bahrain, it also served as the national airline of three neighboring countries and influenced the aviation industry development in the region. The Gulf Air that we know today was officially formed in 1974, though its roots go back further by more than 2 decades when it first started as a charter service for oil company workers in the Gulf region. In 1949, Freddie Bosworth, a former British Royal Air Force pilot, was flying charter flights for the workers between Bahrain and Tehran, Saudi Arabia. Bosworth would also fly to other neighboring cities such as Doha, Qatar, and Sharjah in the United Arab Emirates. Looking to expand its operation, he secured an investment from two prominent Bahraini businessmen, Hussein Yatem and Khalifa Al-Ghosaibi, and incorporated the new air taxi service in London, United Kingdom on March 24, 1950. The new company was named the Gulf Aviation Company Limited. Using an Anson Avro, Gulf Aviation Company's first scheduled flight took off on July 5, 1950, between Manama, Bahrain, and Sharjah via Doha. Before the modern-day busy air hubs in the region, the infrastructure was limited. There was an existing airfield such as at Sharjah, a British Royal Air Force base. Meanwhile, at Doha, Bosworth would land the aircraft on a sandy runway, and the experiences was described by one of the first passengers, a Pakistan-based wireless telegraph specialist named Harold Dunn. Dunn described the landing at Doha before the age of the modern Hamad International Airport, saying, quote, "At the time, Doha had no civil airport or even a runway. However, this was no problem for Freddie, who devised his own procedures. First of all, we circled several times low over the town, thereby announcing to the agent that we had arrived. We then flew about 10 miles along the coast to a sandy beach, where at a glance the sails of the offshore dhows gave Freddie an indication of the wind direction. When only a few feet from actually landing, Freddie jumped the aircraft into the air, bringing her down some 30 yards further on, saying, 'Did you see it? We were just going to land on a glass bottle. Wouldn't have done those tires much good.' Some 10 minutes after landing, a cloud of sand dust could be seen in the distant desert. This proved to be from two cars, from one of which emerged the agent clasping a bathroom scale, the second car containing the passengers. The scales were placed on the beach, and the passengers and baggage were duly weighed, enabling the preparation of a load sheet. Apart from having to wind up that wretched undercart again, the rest of the flight to Sharjah was uneventful and very pleasant. Sharjah served both as an airbase and the first airport in the UAE, while another destination Bosworth would fly to, Dubai, was mostly served with flying boats. Bosworth's Gulf Aviation planes would land at the sandy airstrip in Al Guaisis, located between Dubai and Sharjah. The rulers of Dubai wanted to change this and had a vision to build and open a new airport just south in the Al Garud district. Working with Gulf Aviation, Dubai's airport would open in 1959. Today, that very same airport is known around the world as the Dubai International Airport. Bosworth was looking to expand the operation and had plans for the young Gulf airline to take on new aircraft. However, he tragically lost his life while piloting a demonstration flight of a de Havilland Dove at Croydon, United Kingdom in 1951. In the aftermath of the accident, British Overseas Aviation Corporation, the predecessor to British Airways, would become Gulf Aviation's major stakeholder. For the next few decades, it would become the main airline of the Gulf region, linking the cities of Manama, Doha, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Kuwait. The first international service to London was launched in 1970 using Vickers VC-10 aircraft. As Gulf Aviation grew, so too did the economies of the Gulf states thanks to the black gold, oil. Meanwhile, back in the UK, BOAC was part of a merger between several airlines to form the airline we now know today as British Airways. With the growing oil wealth, 4 of the Gulf countries, Bahrain, Oman, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates, joined together to purchase the majority shares of Gulf Aviation from BOAC. On January 1st, 1974, the four countries signed a foundation treaty and a new airline would be formed as the national airline of the region. The new airline would be renamed Gulf Air. From 1976, the airline would expand its services within the region, starting with flights between Manama and Beirut, Lebanon. Using jet aircraft such as Lockheed L-1011 TriStars and Boeing 737s, Gulf Air would expand overseas to destinations in Europe such as Amsterdam and Paris. The airline also began services to East Asia with the introduction of flights to Bangkok, Hong Kong, and Manila. For nearly a decade, the four nations shared Gulf Air as their flag carrier. However, as the airline grew, so too were the ambitions of each own country. Each country that signed the Gulf Air Foundation Treaty began to differ in priorities, such as having desires to launch their own airlines. The first city to separate itself was the city of Dubai in the 1980s. Dubai International Airport had grown, and more foreign airlines launched flights to the city. Meanwhile, Gulf Air reduced its services as it grew concerned that it was only a regional feeder for other airlines at Dubai. Responding to the move, the rulers of Dubai would form and launch their own airline, Emirates, in 1985. Emirates would become the biggest competitor to Gulf Air within the Gulf and started the sequence of the formation of new national airlines for cities and countries in the region. Qatar would launch Qatar Airways in 1994, though it did not exit Gulf Air until 2002. The UAE would fully withdraw from Gulf Air when Abu Dhabi-based Etihad was launched in 2005. Oman Air was launched in 1993, though the Oman government did not withdraw from Gulf Air until 2007. Towards the end of the 2000s, Bahrain was the lone government backing Gulf Air. As the UAE, Oman, and Qatar formed their own airlines, Gulf Air continued to expand its fleet and network. The airline took on aircraft such as the Boeing 767, Airbus A340-300, and the A330-300s. New routes were launched to Africa, Australia, and North America. Among the new services was the first routes by Gulf-based airline to Australia and South Africa. However, the exit of the governments impacted the finances of Gulf Air. After years of losses, in 2001, Gulf Air reported a debt worth around $800 billion. Leading up to that year, the airline reduced its fleet and network in 1997. Some had doubts of the future of the airline in the 2000s, which led to a meeting by shareholders in 2002 to discuss whether the airline should continue operations. Gulf Air ended up navigating its future alone and continued to experience financial difficulties and job cuts. Gulf Air saw the following decade, the 2010s, as a time to make a turnaround for the airline. Older aircraft such as the A340s were phased out, while the airline took in modern fuel-efficient aircraft such as the Airbus A320, A321neos, and Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners. In 2019, Gulf Air set out to become an airline with a, quote, boutique business model. The airline saw the new business model, which will, quote, reinforce its focus on product and customer service, and plans were made to launch new destinations with new offerings in its premium cabins before being shelved during the pandemic. After the pandemic, the airline announced its new CEO towards the end of 2022, naming former Star Alliance CEO Jeffrey Goh to the position, where he has been at the helm since 2023. Now past the pandemic, Goh has stated that the airline is aiming to become profitable during the years 2026-2027. Other goals for Gulf Air include cutting unprofitable routes, growing the network by 25 destinations, and a return of flights to the US. With transit travel making up 70% of its operations at Bahrain, Gulf Air also plans to promote Bahrain as a tourist destination. Despite the challenges it has faced, Gulf Air continues to operate flights to around 50 destinations in 28 countries. The airline operates a fleet of 42 aircraft with the majority 32 narrow-body A320, A321s. Its wide-body aircraft fleet consists of 10 Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners. Gulf Air has 12 aircraft on order, 2 more 787-9s, and 10 A320 family aircraft. From its hub at Bahrain International Airport in Manama, Gulf Air's network heavily focuses on flights within the Middle East and across India, with 16 nearby cities and 8 cities in India. In Europe, the airline operates flights to the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, and Moscow, Russia. Along with the major cities such as Paris, Frankfurt, Munich, and Rome, Gulf Air also operates flights to the 2 London area hubs, Heathrow and Gatwick. On routes to Asia beyond India, the airline services is limited to Dhaka, Colombo, Bangkok, Manila, Singapore, and 2 cities in China, Guangzhou and Shanghai. Gulf Air lacks in routes to other major cities in Asia such as Beijing, Hong Kong, Seoul, and Tokyo. Gulf Air is the first airline of the Gulf region and has had a hand in influencing the developments of the aviation industry in the Gulf, though it has since been overshadowed by the younger airlines from Bahrain's neighboring countries that have grown to become major global brands. Emirates, Etihad, and Qatar Airways now make up what are now referred to as the Middle East Big Three airlines. Each take advantage of the very same geographical advantage that Gulf Air has with Bahrain. The other airlines have also been very ambitious, while Gulf Air has had its recent struggles. Based on its history, it seems as Gulf Air has been adversely affected by the exit of the 3 national governments. Those exits happened at the worst time, as the 1990s and 2000s was a crucial transition period in the aviation industry. It was a time when airlines began to expand with new international long-haul routes. While Gulf Air absorbed the exits of the UAE, Qatar, and Oman, it was not able to form its own mega transit hub at Bahrain, as we have seen done well at Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Doha. Restricted by the loss of investments and financial difficulties, Gulf Air was not able to make the necessary aircraft purchases, especially wide-body jets, that Emirates, Qatar Airways, and Etihad have done that allowed them to not only surpass Gulf Air, but become major global airline brands. We could only wonder where Gulf Air would be had the founding countries never withdrew and formed their own airlines. That is now in the past, and Gulf Air now has to compete with more airlines in the region seeking to be the next big player. Some of the neighboring states, such as Saudi Arabia, are making major investments for its airline Saudia and a new startup airline, Riyadh Air. With new and existing challengers, things are not going to get any easier for Gulf Air. What are your thoughts and experiences with Gulf Air? I definitely would love to hear your thoughts in the comments section. In the meantime, this has been Flights in Asia, highlighting the news and updates in the aviation and travel scene in the Asia Pacific. Thank you for watching and have a great day.